My name is Asia, and how I got to my faith today, I started out with very little information about God and Jesus. I didn't grow up in the faith, I didn't grow up going to church. I had just a few experiences in going to church. My great aunt had taken me and my sister just a few times to her church when we were really young. And I remember just going to church and loving kids' church. I remember feeling just so loved and joyful. And then she moved to Maine, and we didn't have anyone to take us to church anymore. And then I didn't really have another experience of being in church outside of weddings and funerals and baptisms until I was about 12 years old. And I was baptized Catholic. And during that time, we went to church just for the requirements to get baptized and get our first communion and go through that process. But I remember feeling just wronged. I remember feeling that I don't remember feeling loved, and what I had this perception of Christians that you would just sin and do all of these, live lawlessly, and then go to church and everything would be okay. And so my idea of baptism was that you get baptized, you get washed of your sins, and then you can sin as much as you want, and that's basically the point of getting baptized. And after that, I didn't really have any interest in going to church because of the examples that I had seen. And it wasn't until years later, but I remember being really, really young and always wanting to be a mother. At the time, I didn't know that it was a calling, but I've always felt called to be a mother. When I turned 16, I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and I was told that I would never be able to have children. And I remember this devastating me because I had this beautiful vision of what I would look like as a mother. And I remember making these little notes, mental notes in my head just from a young age. And I remember wanting to have this foundation of God, even though I didn't really have a foundation of that myself. I just had this desire that I wanted to go to church and I wanted to teach my child about God. And when I was told that I couldn't have children, I started to pray. I didn't really feel like I knew how to pray. I was always taught to pray in life or death situations, and outside of that, you really didn't pray. I took the chance anyways to pray about God allowing me. I took the chance to pray. I took the chance to pray about God blessing me as a mother, and I started praying at 16, and I would pray sometimes daily. I would pray sometimes monthly, and I prayed for years that if there was a God, that he would bless me as a mother someday. And it wouldn't be until years later, which he would answer that prayer. And in that moment that I found out that I was with child, I just knew that there was a God, and I knew that he answered prayers, and I knew that I wanted to have this relationship with him. I didn't know where to start, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I knew that I wanted that. And once I knew that I was pregnant, I started praying, and I would start seeking. I started to seek God in what I thought I was seeking, if that makes sense. I didn't have really any Christian friends. I didn't have anybody in my life that was followers and believers. And so I didn't really know where to begin. I started I started sampling churches and kind of trying to find where I fit. And that took years, took a while. But I had another like aha moment of faith, and when my child's father, he left us when my son was about to turn 1 year old, and I remember feeling that devastation all over again, and I remember feeling like my life was over, like there was no way that I could do this by myself. And I remember going to my mom's, and I was on my knees, and I was praying hysterically to God, and just asking him to help me, asking him to strengthen me, because I knew that how I was feeling like I didn't want to go on, but I didn't want to feel like that because I had a little child to take care of. So I remember praying to him and asking him to just strengthen me and to let me know that it was going to be okay, that everything was going to be okay, because I could not see any light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember going to bed that night at my parents' house, and I had this dream, and I was walking down these stairs, and it looked like these big, beautiful ballroom stairs, and someone bumped into me. And I remember thinking, gosh, that's so rude. How can you just bump into someone? And I turned around, and it was my deceased grandfather. And something that he used to do is he used to give us these huge, big bear hugs and rub his whiskers on us. And he grabs me, and he gives me this huge bear hug. And he whispers in my ear that everything's going to be okay. Like, God has everything handled. And it felt so real. And I knew that was God speaking to me. And so from that moment on, I felt stronger, and I knew that I could lean on him. And everything just started falling into place. Shortly after that, I met someone that told me about MOPS, which is Moms of Preschoolers, and it's a Christian organization. And then from there, I was invited to a Bible study, and from there, I was invited to church, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I kept seeking him, and he keeps providing for me in miraculous ways. I could go on and on and on with how he has provided for me and my son. I'm a single mother, and everything does not add up. Like what he has provided for me, like the finances, the opportunities. If I have been in these moments where I've had nothing, where I didn't know if I was going to have a roof over our head the next day, or whether I was going to have food to feed us, and I knew that I had family that I could go to and ultimately just end up with. But in these moments, I was fearful of asking for it, and he would provide. I would have someone hand me money in church, and someone give me groceries, and he just keeps providing in so many ways. And where I would be if he had not intervened in my life, and if I had not turned to him and allowed him to transform me, I would be living sinfully. I would be promiscuous still. I would be abusing drugs. I would be abusing alcohol. And there's a good chance I wouldn't be alive, especially without having my child. Before him, I suffered from depression, and I had numerous suicidal thoughts. And so I know without him intervening in my life that I would not be where I am today. And where I'm going because of him, I have no idea. All I know is that the more I submit to him and the more that I allowed him to guide my life and to guide my plan, that everything turns out so much better. My life now is more than I could have ever imagined before turning to him and before allowing him to intervene.